What's up, buddy? I'm going to give everybody a minute to jump in. All right, folks, we're going to get started because I know it's weird when we have like these long breaks before the start of the show where I look awkwardly at my computer in the background. I have like two different computers set up. So if you're ever wondering why I'm looking to the right so I can see what's on the camera and then look to the thing. So I'll start with the questions on the board and then I'll jump back and do any questions you guys drop in here or try to comment if there's anything relevant to kind of what I'm talking about as we go along. As always, thanks everyone for joining. And let's jump into this Overreaction Sunday, talking about the disappointing, yet again, home loss to Boston College this time for Georgia Tech football. First question is, out of the 5 remaining games, do you honestly think Georgia Tech can win 3 to make a bowl game? Yeah, or they could lose all of them. Like, I don't really know what to expect with this team week to week right now. I don't think the staff can. And, I think everything kind of hinges on how the defense plays and how good or bad Haynes King plays right now and how healthy they are. And those 3 things all came to fruition in the Boston College game, led to a loss. You had your 2 most dynamic receivers out. They tried to play Christian Leary at wide receiver, outside receiver, which I thought was a mistake, and ended up not causing a little bit of some of the problems. Blaylock's been hot and cold, and they seem really reluctant to play Avery Boyd and Abdul Janae for some reason, and even get DJ Moore or someone else, James Blackstrain, whoever it is in the game. So yeah, it's been interesting. I don't know. I mean, they could go out and they could win every game left. They could lose every game left. I mean, it's, realistically, it's, 2 or 3 more wins is plausible. 1 more win's plausible. Less than that, I think you're going to have to really shake things up if you're Brent, because that would be hugely disappointing to not win another game or something. But looking at the ACC, everybody can beat everybody right now. I think Virginia showed that on Saturday night in Chapel Hill against a team that's extremely talented in North Carolina. And Georgia Tech's had their number. Who knows, what impact this has on Carolina. I know people were saying on the board that they were, upset that this was the game that North Carolina lost. I don't know that's necessarily the case. Maybe this shakes them. You don't know. Maybe it shakes them and they come out and whip Georgia Tech. I don't know what to expect. So be interesting. So when I saw the concert was, I went to the ATL Live concert. My wife got tickets through her job in the Home Depot suite, and we had a great time. It was a little weird running into Kirby Smart. He literally came into our box, which was weird, to talk to some of the other people. I did not say hello to Kirby. I thought it would have been funny to do a selfie. Had Georgia Tech won, I would have considered doing something funny like that, but I think people would have been so pissed off that it would not have been worth the joke of that. So no, and I don't really know Kirby like that. If it was someone I knew, it would have been a different situation, but Kirby was not there overlapping with me very much back in the day. But Willie Nelson was good. Just heard the opening act, which was Little Big Town. I'm not a big country music guy, so I thought Carrie Underwood put on a good show. Didn't like her outfit, but she was great. Her voice is pretty amazing. And then George Strait, we stayed for a few songs and then left because that's not for me or my wife. I'm not, I like some of the more classic country guys, but that like 80s country like things right over my head. So, and a lot of other people were leaving at that time too, which I thought was interesting. I have no doubt Key loves Tech and will do everything in his power to get it right. Well, with that said, will Key use NIL money to get high school recruits that can be impact players next year, especially on defense? And will Key get rid of players who clearly have a loser mindset? They've been pruning the roster, and there's no better way to put it. And they're pruning the recruiting class now to get the right kids in. The main issues they have, if you look at it from a larger point of view, would be running back and linebackers. They need multiples there. The portal, tight end, they're going to need some help at tight end because most of those guys are matriculating out of the program. And then I don't know what else they do. It just depends kind of what happens with Kevin Shearer in the DC spot. There's a lot of questions. I think they're in the air, but I think you have a nice core of some skill guys on offense. You have pretty talented slots. You'll have Leo back, Eric Singleton back. So you have some nice building blocks. It's just a matter of keeping some of the guys they haven't. If I'm using my NIL money right now, I'm trying to get a mix of really talented transfer portal kids that can come in and immediately help you and be an upgrade. And then also bouncing out, retaining key guys. And then also, if you need to use that in recruiting for a freshman or whatever, however you do that, I'm not going to dive into the weird details of that. The Auburn band's Metallica show is really cool. Have you seen it? If you're into metal, enjoy the marching band. It's impressive. I have not watched Auburn play a football game in person since 2007. So no, I have not seen. That was my last year covering Georgia, and that would have been the last time I probably saw Auburn. The last and only time I saw Willie Nelson live, and we're going to get a lot of these. I've had questions about the concert last night. He didn't even try to sing. He just mumbled with horrible phrasing that ruined his best songs. Maybe he was on the drugs that night. You said he was good when you saw him, right? Yeah, it's interesting because his timing's a little off. The guy's 90 years old. I'm going to give him a break. Like, there were some solos and some things where he was playing, his timing was a little funky, or like his fingering was a little off. And I chalk some of that up to being 90 years old and then playing in a stadium, which is not easy either. So I think that Willie did a good job. Is his singing what it used to be? Hell no. I mean, he's 90 years old. He's just trying to breathe. So I think you have to look at it. I thought he was 1,000 times better than the last time I saw Bob Dylan, which was 20 years ago. And when I saw Bob Dylan in like 96, he was good. And then he went through this weird phase where he doesn't sing anymore and just croaks through these songs. And Willie's way better than that. So I thought it was better than some of the other old timey guys I've seen. He still sounds better than Steven Stills does too, which is sad because I love Steven Stills. But Jesus, that guy's deaf and coked out of his mind and just cannot sing. He just can't hear himself sing anymore. You know more about the program than any one of us will ever know. So what is it going to take to get this program back to winning seasons, bowl trips? I know it's better players, but do you think we don't just have the coaching staff to get us there? The head coach gets all the credit, all the blame, but in reality, the coach is working under the head coach on any team that do a lot of the work. Yes and no. Brent's going to ultimately take all of the blame and all of the good fortune. He's not like a Paul Johnson or Mike Elko or Jimbo Fisher or whatever. One of these guys that calls their game. So yeah, it's a little more of a team thing. That's a little bit of a different element for me. I cut my teeth covering really Mark Richt, who was an offensive coordinator, who kind of, it was his offense, sort of like Nick Saban, it's his defense. And Rick even shifted away from being the principal play caller during the time I was there, and then to Paul, who was a principal play caller, to Jeff, who was pulling the strings defensively, whether he would actually admit it or not. And then now you have Brent, who's more of a CEO type coach. And he did not a great job on Saturday. Like, his clock management was poor. Like, there were some situational things that were not great. And there's some times where he needs to kind of jump on his staff and get them to do what makes sense instead of being cute on offense or whatever, or sit guys. I think there's some stuff that he still has to work on, but I think Brent would tell you that too. And I would tell that to him. I mean, yeah, he can sure give me criticism if you wanted to on what I do. Like, we all have room for improvement in the things we do in our lives. And a coach is no different, whether you're Nick Saban or Brent Key or Tony Elliott or, Kirby Smart or whoever. Like, everybody needs constructive criticism at times. I'm not going to answer Ekreb's question. Where's the disconnect when the reports from fall camps about how well the defense was playing and what we've seen so far on the field? You go against yourself, right? And so that's part of it. I think part of it is guys are not playing 4 quarters, playing hard. I don't know what it's not, things are not gelling. The offense is not consistent. The offense does not sustain drives. That has a huge negative ripple effect on your defense. It did the entire time Jeff was here when the offense was good. Okay. I saw with even Paul Johnson, man, when the offense struggled at times, like think back to the Duke game with Ted Roof up there where they lost and cost them a trip to a bowl game. Like when the defense doesn't have faith in the offense being able to hold their end up of the bargain or vice versa, things get really tense and it creates a kind of negative feedback loop, for lack of a better explanation. And that was one of the huge problems under Jeff Collins. They'd hit a little adversity and the team would fold up. Now with Brent, you're seeing them fight through it a lot more, but there's still some of that tendency there. And he's got to break them of that. And I don't know how you do it. I think you were more in the camp this could be a bowl team versus the Vegas prediction. If we finish 3-9, will Brent Shea Bat move on from Brent Key? They're not firing Brent Key after 1 year. I don't give a shit what y'all think, like how much you hate Brent Key or like Brent Key or whatever. If you fired Brent Key right now, you would have no shot at hell of hiring anyone with a pulse. Like you would be trying to hire freaking Rick Neuheisel or some crap. Like there would be no one that the job would be absolutely radioactive at that point, like radioactive. You got to give this dude a chance to fix this. People got to get your minds right. Like I am tired of seeing that because that's the dumbest thing I've read on like website. They should have fired Jeff after year 2. Like that's like when you could see that it was not going well. You don't give somebody like 12 months to figure it out. That's crazy talk. What's in the works to make you feel better about the program? You mentioned this is the best you've felt since 2009. I think there's like good leadership. I like both the coaches in football and men's basketball. I like Damon as we've gotten to see what he's doing. It's not even really getting to know Damon. It's more about seeing what he's doing and learning about the process and talking to people who are around the program and that have been around Georgia Tech basketball for a long time. Their vibe off of it. With Brent, I think he has a plan and knows how to put together what it takes to win here. Now, whether he can execute it's the bigger question. But I think his ceiling's still pretty high. He's just got to figure things out a little bit. Why was the staff and team mistake prone and lethargic after having a bye week? 10 men on the field, 2 bad timeouts, uninspired team all after having 10 days off to prepare. Should never happen. How does that happen? Teams sometimes play poorly out of the bye week. Paul sometimes didn't like having a bye when they were rolling. It could go either way, right? They were coming off an emotional win against Miami. The 10 men in the field, I feel like all that stuff happened in the fourth quarter too. Like I think you're conflating a couple of things. The timeout management, Brent's had some issues with it. Every first-time head coach I've ever watched Alex Golish do the same thing at Western Kentucky week 1. Like these guys, there's a learning curve to this, man. It's like any job. You go work at Home Depot and you get hired to drive a forklift. You're going to have a learning curve in how you operate the forklift in year 1 versus how you drive probably one-handed and like half paying attention in year 5. Like that is the way things are in any business. Brent Key he's been offensive coordinator once and he's an O-line coach. He's a head coach for the first time right now. So you're going to take bumps in the road with that. You're going to have to get over that or it's going to be a very long stretch for you if you get too obsessed over that in year 1, which this is really year 1. I know you can't go into specifics, but there's a faction of the team that is not bought into whatever Brett Key is doing or still stuck in the coddling of the old regime. If so, do you wonder if this is causing some locker room or effort issues? That's probably more of a specific way of asking why does the team have winner mentality problems that stem from the old regime handling things. culture is set by leadership, culture is set by your coaches, culture is set by how everyone does their work, right? And there's loser cultures and there's winner cultures. You have to create your own space. And this is something I struggle with in my own business at times. Like, and I've seen other people struggle with it, like anything in life. And your attitude plays a huge part in all of this. And there, who are the guys who've been big winners on the team? You know, Dominique Blaylock, and who else? Like, there's not a lot of people that have that background on the team to lean back on. Haynes King was not like a big game winning quarterback somewhere else. You know, I'm trying to think of like who else is, you know, Paul Maiolo was a bench guy at Notre Dame because of Achilles. And all the guys who've been there haven't won a damn thing at all. You know, even the oldest guys, they were on a team that went to the Quick Lane Bowl. Like, okay, like they don't have it, and so I don't know. Someone asked the over under on the 2009 comment. I don't know how long it's going to take Jay to figure it out. The one thing I like about Jay is he is very interested in like figuring out every aspect of what's going on and how to improve things, and how that turns into something bigger. I don't know, but I've seen a guy who actually is paying attention to everything, and that's warm embrace for the first time really since Radakovich that I've seen anyone that actually cares. And I know a lot of mixed opinions. I think Radakovich's problem at Georgia Tech was he was cheap in some ways and spent money poorly in others, and didn't get the fundraising going in the right way, and was more interested in just milking the same donor base over and over again. That was, and then he hired a bad basketball coach. He bungled that quite badly. But like, you know, this is the first time I felt like they've had confident leadership since Dan left. So take that for what it is. Does Key have a coach who gives him in-game advice? Seems like he does not know how to manage the clock. There's a couple dudes that help him, Coach Ely and Coach Boyle, and a couple of dudes. But no, there's not like some. Doesn't have like George O'Leary on the headset telling him something or whoever. Like, there's not that. Has J-Bat had any discussions to your knowledge with the companies like the Boys and Girls Club to try and fill the stadium more for home games? That's something I've been pushing. If you guys have been around JOL for a long time, and I know the guy who asked this Joker 5478 has, I thought that was a great way to fill up the north end zone. Like, start giving those tickets away. Those kids will be excited. Give them a hot dog and a Coke, and let them go stand there and cheer on and some pom poms, and let them cheer on the jackets, and organize those things and spend a little money, but start to build up your sidewalk fan base that way. Additional note to this, KQ's responded if he has insight. Reports that listened to a post-game radio interview, Brent Key said, referenced having some tough conversations with players who were not coming along because it wasn't fair to the players not giving their all. KQ, any insight into where this is in regards to locker room, concerning how we're halfway through the season and Brand is addressing this now? I think this is many reference just completely cleaning house in the offseason. In retrospect, maybe he should have like fired everybody and started with a clean staff. There, as in any organization, the problem is like I know too much about like kind of things that are going on internal politics, and it's screwed up everywhere. There's so many egos when you get into coaching and players, and at this level, you're at an elite level, the step below pros, and everyone thinks they know better than the next guy. And so there's always going to be people who are unhappy. There's always going to be people who complain and moan, and there are people who are not good people. Like, you know, sometimes you have guys like that you screw up in recruiting or whatever and end up with a turd on your team. That happens too. And, you know, you hope to have enough leadership in your locker room to fix that. I don't know where they're at in that stuff, to be honest with you. So do J-Bat and Cabrera see the Brett Key era as a possible bridge to a new coach with a larger salary pool? Not to say they don't want Key to succeed, but asking a lot of Bat to fix the mess who's left by more than just an immediate predecessor in just a few short years, the length of Key's contract. It made sense to hire Brent Key. That wasn't what Jay Batt set out to do. He set out to find the best coach for Georgia Tech, and they ended up hiring Brent Key. The pool of available people in their salary range and all the other restrictions they have with the job, again, is tough. Go back and look at the last couple of coaching searches. It's been tough. It is a hard job. People overlook that. It is not the job it was in 2000 when the SEC was not what it is now. And Clemson sucked and South Carolina sucked and didn't recruit well. And, Auburn was in perpetual probation. And like the job is way different than it was 20, 25 years ago. And so even then, who were they? They hired Chan Gailey, who was a mediocre in 2000, whatever it was, 3. They hired Chan, who was a average NFL coach. They promoted Goal, who was a defensive coordinator. They hired Bill Lewis, who was the head coach of East Carolina. And Bobby Ross, who had been at a Maryland program that exploded. Like, they don't have this history of going out and hiring the hotshot coach. Like, that's like the big name guy that's going to go strike gold, the Mike Norvells of the world. That has never been Georgia Tech. Like, they don't hire that guy. They haven't in a long time. Like, understand where you are. That context and understanding who you are and what you are as a program is part of this problem. Like, you can want to be Notre Dame. I mean, you can want to be Harvard on Monday through Friday and Alabama on Saturday all you want, but you don't have the fan base for that. You don't have the money, the support, and it's unrealistic. You've got to be playing all the angles, working, grinding, having guys like be able to give you some kind of edge, whether it's recruiting, fundraising, whatever those things are. Brand, I think, brings a few of those to the table. Paul brought a lot of them to the table. That's why he was successful. I think O'Leary brought a lot to the table. That's why he did well. Chan, not so much. He didn't do as well at it. And he struck. Chan really lived off of having a really good defensive coordinator too. So, it's hit and miss. It's going to be hit and miss with your staff, what you do, all those things. Not coaching, but Prez and Bat, I was impressed with the Tech Green as players walked up. Place was first class with great area for high school recruits, and they got Mary Mac's tea room meal while hosted by the staff in Coleman, Winky, Aaron Joe, blah, 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 blah. Also saw the new Prez and his wife. I mean, he's not really a new president. Cabrera's been there for, I think, literally all of Jeff Collins' tenure now. So this is what, his 5th year, 4th year? I don't know, something like that. There's this guy just saying he really enjoyed Bobby Dodd and thought it was better. Cool. What the hell is wrong with the fans? I have to admit I'm skeptical of Scooter from the beginning. After the Citadel I was in, he's to show me mode. At the end of 2020, I wanted him out, but I realized it wouldn't work financially with Key. He hasn't even been through one season as a head coach, yet people are already saying he's a failure. I suspect many of them are saying that are people who supported Scooter for a very long time, season 0, COVID season, etc. talk. Did Scooter really turn us into Miami Light, where the fans are think we are back to the Dodd days at the beginning of the season after not having a competitive program for the last 5 or so years? And he used the quote, culture, flash over substance. Yeah, I don't understand this either. Brent, you throw out, when someone's an interim coach, you have to throw out whatever they do in that interim time period. I think O'Leary was winless. It doesn't matter. What matters is when they take over the program. It matters in terms of it can get you the job. Dabo got the job. Dabo was 4-3 as an interim, basically what Brent did. And then they won 9 games the next year, and then they regressed to 6-7 the next year with really some of the better talent in the league at that point still. There's a lot that goes into this, man. This is not a flip the switch and you're suddenly winning program. It's never been that way. They've never been out Jimmy and Joe and everybody in the league. Everybody's got players now, BC had the magical recipe that kills Georgia Tech and has for, I can't even think the last time they played a running quarterback really well. I mean, we're going back to probably Paul Johnson or something. They struggle with the South Carolina State guy running the option, and they weren't running the option, but they were running read option stuff with the quarterback and design runs and all that stuff. Like it is hard to play with that when you don't have dynamic linebackers. They're not dynamic at linebacker. They don't have amazing safeties that are erasers either. So when you don't have that, you're going to have a hard time defensively. And they're struggling a little bit on defense. Like, but I told you guys before the season, I was concerned about the linebacker play. It's been the Achilles heel of their defense. Pass rush has been okay. They don't get a great 4-man, 3-man rush. Coverage has gotten better as the season's gone on. Now they've taken some stuff out of the defense, I think, but they're not great on defense, and the offense is like very much like playing. It's like playing craps, man. You're like betting on specific things to hit, like and rolling the dice, and if they don't hit, you're hitting crap. Like I don't know, it's weird. Um, Given that Taysom Moore and Jacob Cruz have lost their red shirt or about to, what is the point of not playing them on defense given the struggles? Um, Jacob Cruz, I don't know. I wonder where he is. He's not in the 3 deep. So maybe you start to play. Maybe he doesn't know the calls. I don't know. He can play both linebacker spots. Tay Seymour, I mean, I would be in favor of playing Sarah Bryant before him if you're going to start going down there. I don't think those guys are playing that poorly. Like, I don't know what the incentive is playing there. I think it's more about playing Cruz at this point. But I don't know that you do that. I don't know. They have issues at linebacker. I don't think they're going to be caught. What's your opinion of Blaylock? I feel as though Abdul or even Avery Boyd has played more consistently than him at this point in the season. Dominique Blaylock seems to be like really hot and cold. Like, I don't know what that's about. Like, he'll look great on one play, and then he looks checked out and not expecting the football, or like the play where the Paul got picked off in front. I don't get what that is. It's like he's not all there and on every play, but sometimes he is. And it's looked like that from game one in the Louisville game. Like it wasn't like it was he's hurt or whatever's going on, or it just looks like he doesn't play every single snap at like 100% focus for some reason. Don't know what it is. I agree with you. I thought they should have played. I thought it was a huge mistake to play Christian Leary outside from a schematic standpoint because he can't block and he's very small. And Haynes doesn't throw the greatest ball in the world all the time. So sometimes you need a guy to jump up or whatever. You had two outside guys in Abdul and Avery that have more size, both, or at least Abdul's played that Z spot all year. He hasn't really come in the game very much in that game. They try to play Chase one snap. But I think without Singleton, they seem so concerned about the vertical, trying to stretch the field. That's not Leary's game. He doesn't catch those balls well. You saw it in the game. He dropped one. He's not a A+ hands guy. Like he's okay hands. Like that just made no sense to me from a schematic point of view. And so I don't understand why they did that. And you take a huge hit on your blocking on the edge too with that. And there was a play where, and I don't know who missed the block. It was not Haynes' long run, but it was another long run. And like the guy just didn't engage his blocker. It was weird. He like kind of just turned away from him. The guy came over and made the tackle. Might have been on the one long run Jamal. No, that was not him. I don't know. There was a play. Maybe it was the one that Haynes broke. I don't know. But it was just weird to me. Like the downfield blocker just kind of disengaged and let his guy go loose. How do you reconcile Key wanting to be a hard ass, play hard, work hard, prepare hard team versus the horribly inconsistent results on the field? No denying that the team looks asleep and unprepared. Bruce Young, these sort of days are behind us. I'm a committed donor and supporter of the program, but I'm having a hard time reconciling the choice of words and actions. I think there's a talent problem, man. Like, I think they're like, if I go look at this 2 deep that started the game on Saturday and then put up like other teams, like, would I start their 5 or would I start this guy over that guy? And that's where you start to run into the problems. They're not like talented enough to overcome mistakes, right? and they're very undersized at some key positions, running back being chief among them. Slot receivers are tiny. The outside receivers can be small depending on who's playing. Um, they're not super dynamic at tight end, or they don't know how to use them properly, or whatever's going on there. That seems to be kind of a non-entity. Again, we've sort of reverted back to Dave Patnoe era, where they catch like one ball a game. Defensively, they had huge problems because you lost Sylvain, you lost Keon White to graduate to the NFL. You got Eddie Kelly, who's a true sophomore, and Micaiah Scott as a defensive tackle. Those are your field ends, your big dynamic defensive end position. That's a huge problem. And then you got two undersized guys, and Kyle Kennard and Kevin Harris playing a rush spot. So those are rush ends. They were down to 4 defensive tackles in the game on Saturday, and one of them is a former walk-on. Like, they have some depth issues. The linebacker position's a mess. Like, they're getting hit with injuries at spots where they can't afford them. So people like have unrealistic expectations, and I try to go through this every year. And it's what I talk about with Syracuse all the time, and Duke, and Virginia, and some of the other schools that are sort of not built up at the moment. They're like a play away from the wrong guy goes down and their whole thing crumbles on them. You saw that last year with Georgia Tech. If Jeff Sims doesn't get hurt in the Duke game, the end of the Duke game, they might have won 7 games last year, like with Brent. Now, Jeff Sims probably still leaves because I think he wanted to leave anyways, but like, that's the thin margins of this stuff. And I think Haynes King's not 100%. So I don't know. Already answered that. The goal line and the punt timeouts were maddening. Yes. When there are coaching changes, some folks in the college internet sphere talk about coaches getting a year 0, which means first year results are expected to be bad, or this is a fully rebuild job and job security is being looked at. No one's looking at, like, unless you're at like Alabama or Georgia, no one's looking at your results year 1. By the way, what the hell is Kirby Smart? Didn't exactly light up in year 1 at Georgia. He was 8-5 and lost to Georgia Tech. And I think their 8th win was a bowl game against TCU. So they won 7 games that season in the regular season. That's Georgia, man. Like, that's a job where you're loaded up. Like, get some perspective, people. Jesus Christ. Like, okay. All right, so I'll get into the chat questions here. Chances we do the most tech thing ever and beat UNC. Every game's winnable, every game's losable at this point. That's how I look at this, and I don't expect that to change. Why can't fans see that if everyone donated $10 a month, we'd have a top 25 roster in the country? I mean, I guess people can donate or spend money however they want, man. I'm never going to tell people how they should spend their money in a meaningful way. I think if you care about Georgia Tech a lot and want to see them do well, then yes, you should give money to things like the Tech Way, but that's your choice. Like, I wouldn't give money like that because that's not something that interests me in terms of not Georgia Tech, but whatever school, Texas Longhorns, the school I followed. QB change if you were coach, yes or no? No, I don't think you change, but you tell Haynes, like, this is what it is, man. If you keep forcing these balls and not running when you need to run, and then the leash is going to get shorter and shorter, and eventually you need to make a change. Clearly they're comfortable with Haynes and what he's doing, and I don't know that Zach would have done any better on Saturday. I don't know if he would have done any worse. There's no way to really calculate that at this point because we haven't seen him really play. Ask the Braves about bye weeks. Yeah, it worked out real well for them. Who's the other team? Was it the Dodgers that got bounced? There was one other team that got bounced that also won a bunch of games in the postseason. Why is the Tech way make it difficult to get in contact with them? I have no idea, man. Like I have nothing to do with them. What other coaching examples could we look to hope that Brett Key can do it? Dabo Sweeney is the one I keep talking about. Nick Saban had a crappy year his first year at Alabama. The guy that many wanted to hire, or some people wanted to hire, Willie Fritz. It took him 5 years to turn Tulane around. And they're finally having their first back-to-back decent seasons, or I'd say good seasons, in the entire time he's been there. And they even had a 2-win season in the middle of that. So, yeah, I could give you 1,000 examples of guys that took time to build to whatever they're getting to, but sometimes it takes time. This ain't a turnkey job. This isn't Michigan. It's not Ohio State. It's not Alabama. It's not Georgia. Understand who you are and what you are. And this is a program that, won 9 games in 3 straight years before the head coach got fired. And we're on pace to have 12 wins in 4 years. That's what you are. So you got to fix that. And that's what Brent's trying to do. But you're not going to fix it in 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. That's going to take time to fix, man. It took Paul Johnson. Here's a good example. Paul Johnson's going into the Hall of Fame, right? Paul Johnson took over at Navy as a football coach in whatever it was, 2005. Is that right? 2002, sorry. So Navy, the previous season, was winless, right? Paul's first year, they go 2-10. And then they won 8 games the next year. Dave Clawson at Wake Forest was god awful. They were awful. People forget how bad those teams were. So bad. His first year, they went 7-6 because they had an unbelievable defense. No, I'm sorry. They went 3-9. Look at the wrong line. They won 2 league games. They went 2-14 his first 2 years in the ACC at Wake Forest. Then they went to a bowl game in 2016. And they went to another bowl game, and then another, then another, then another, then another, and another. And he finally sort of has a consistent program. And that's a program that was behind Georgia Tech, but they spent a crap ton of money. They've invested in their program. And they stuck with the coach and let him build out his plan. And he was aided by the fact they could redshirt everybody back then. There was no portal. It'll be interesting to see how he works in the new scenario with the portal, and then they keep losing guys. They've been really ravaged by it at the top end of the roster, and that's part of the reason they suck this year. But I mean, they won 6-18 his first 2 years as a head coach. So yeah, there's tons of examples of guys, and that's a guy that Tech fans would want to be the head coach right now. If the money was there, would going after and getting Demo make a massive difference with this team? I have no idea, man. I'm not in the locker room, guys. I can't tell you what the psyche of the team is. I can't tell you if they're not hyped up. That's the problem. If they need someone to challenge them in a different way. I don't know that question. I can't answer that question. You can ask until you're blue in the face. I can tell you that I hear different things from different people depending on their agendas. And that's how it's always been, whether it was Paul, Jeff Collins, Mark Richt, whoever else I've covered over the years. There's always someone with an agenda about their kid or what their situation is or how they feel about things, or they're a negative person or a positive person. And the answer is it probably falls somewhere in the middle. One thing I've noticed is we have more players going down during games than in years I've seen other years. Are we playing soft, strength and conditioning problems? There have been less injuries this year than the last 5 years. So I'm not sure what you're getting at. There's guys going down. I don't know. They're all coming back into the game, if you get what I'm saying. Looking at the outlook of the season, do you still try to get Leo going this year? Yeah, if he wants to play, I think you look at the last 4 games instead of maybe trying to push him, but taking his medical year away. But yeah, if he wants to play, let him play. That's up. I think you leave it up to him and the situation and your medical staff if he's fully cleared. Winning solves everything. Of course, I would like to have more wins, but we are competing. Every game has been close late in the game. In short, we are getting competitive, I think is what you're trying to say. With Collins, who got killed. Yeah, I could go and pull like how at what point games slipped away. Like there hasn't been like I mean, I remember the 2022 season, or I'm sorry, the 2021 season. Then those last two games, they lost 100-0. Like there's nothing like that going on, and they have been step for step with teams that are way outclassing them, like Ole Miss, Louisville is turned to be a decent team. Last year Georgia, like they even Florida State was not like a horrible blowout, and it could have been like they're more competitive than any of Jeff's teams really were. So I'm like, I don't see why people aren't seeing that either. Will Dante ever play consistently for Tech? I feel like he's injured every year and has moments of excellence that makes us all excited. He's not injured right now, according to Brent Key, so I don't know what the hell's going on with Dante. I don't know why they're not playing him. And it's something that I'm going to ask about this weekend. I'm really curious what the answer is because to me it feels like there's something else going on there, whether it's like personality thing or they're not comfortable with his fit and understanding of the offense or whatever it is. Like there's something off there as to why that dude's sitting and they're playing Trey Cooley so much. Like I don't understand it. I was going to pull up something on Trey Cooley. So I'm curious about it. He has 3 fumbles this year, Trey Cooley. Dante Smith has 3 career fumbles. Trey Cooley has 4 career fumbles and way less carries. I don't know. That's weird. It's weird to me. If you told me Singleton and Haynes would be if you had told me that Singleton and Haynes would be out for a significant stretch, I would have said we have problem. Okay. This may be a Russell question to any 2024 guys who visited, like Chip Corey from Milton. Russell should be working on that stuff. I'll be up him putting a foot on him to make sure he takes care of it. Yeah. We could easily steal one next Saturday. It won't be easy, but they have a bad DC. Yep. Singleton is sick, not injured. We knew that going into or at least I knew that going into the week and hinted that there's a bug going around and some guys are sick, and yeah, it turns into something when you lose your best receiver. So that was why he didn't play. He was sick. He was sitting around with a towel wrapped around his head on the sideline for a lot of the game and then walking around, kind of going back and forth. But he apparently didn't practice much last week, if at all. All right, folks. We'll see what happens this week. Every week's going to be a crapshoot with this team right now. And I don't know. Oh, someone asked me if I'm going to talk to Coach Johnson before the weekend. Yeah, I'm going to try to get in touch with him and see what's going on. I think he's going to the Georgia Southern game. I think they play Thursday night. Is that right? Yeah, they play Georgia State on Thursday. I think he's going to that game. So I don't know how much time I'll have, but I'll maybe ping him tomorrow and see what's going on with him. What are your thoughts on Coach Tillman? I'm not sure if it's coaching or talent secondary issues. I think some of it is those guys. There's physicality limitations. There's some issues with guys like I think being scared if they turn their back, like some dude's going to run by them at full speed because they missed a play. Like there's a lot of that was like something that went on a lot with Jeff when the front 7 front 6 wasn't playing well. The DBs started really like regressing and struggling. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that right now. As far as Tillman, I have not been overly impressed with his recruiting, and But some of the player developments, like Amari Harvey's been kind of a nice pickup. Clayton, obviously, they've done a nice job with. I think my jury's sort of out on that, but I covered one of the best there was at doing that back in the day with Charles Kelly. So I guess maybe I have really high standards for DB coaches too. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that because the defense is so discombobulated right now. But he is not like impressed me the way, say, like Marco Coleman has or some other guys that have been around. Someone asked me about Boogie Seymour and would he come back as DC. I don't know that. I don't know what Brent's plan is there. So, I would just say that, on the defensive staff right now, Marco, I think, has done a pretty good job with his group, but, I think the jury's out on everybody else. That's how I would look at it. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Appreciate you. And hopefully we'll have a better, more positive show next week. Someone asked me the last question. I'll answer this. Do I think Charles Kelly keeps his job out there, Colorado? I don't know, man. Like, I texted him when he took that job and was just like, good luck in the circus, man. He didn't say anything back. I kind of figured he wouldn't. It was a little bit of probably kind of a shitty text for me, to be honest with you, but I just thought it was crazy he was going out there. So we'll see. Deion's certainly unpredictable. All right, folks. See you next time.